So during this presentation, I will discuss how to implement a token economy. So what is a token economy? Well, basically, in a token economy, the clients accumulate points or tokens whenever they initiate desirable behaviours. And then the clients can exchange these points or tokens for some meaningful reward, such as money or some privileges. So to illustrate, in a primary school, whenever the students they read and review a book, they might receive a token, such as a happy face. That is, they receive the sticker of a happy face, not actually a severed head. But then after they accumulate, say, 20 happy faces or stickers, they can exchange these stickers for, say, a box of chocolates or some other reward. As a more interesting example, in a Brazilian prison, after the prisoners complete specific work tasks, they can also receive a star or similar token, and apparently if they accumulate a certain number of tokens, such as say 20 stars, their sentence is reduced by a particular amount. So I'll now describe the phases you need to implement to arrange a token economy. And this discussion will highlight some of the unique benefits and complications of this approach of token economies. For each phase, I want you to decide whether the advice is, say, inevitable, and obvious but could have been overlooked, insightful but quite intuitive, or actually even unintuitive. And this exercise, in which you basically rate the importance of the advice, actually tends to enhance memory. So during the first phase of developing a token economy, you need to decide whether a token economy is indeed suitable in this circumstance. So to answer this question, I need to clarify some of the benefits and drawbacks of token economies. So token economies generate several benefits. So first, token economies are beneficial if you want to reinforce certain behaviours very frequently. So to illustrate, suppose you want to reinforce children who every time they read a book. Now, of course, you couldn't possibly deliver children a box of chocolates every time they read a book, because they might grow into a little Oompa Loompa. So instead, every time they read a book, you could deliver, say, a star or some other token instead, and then convert, say, 20 or so of these stars into a box of chocolates. Second, token economies often feel like a game. If all the children in the classroom, for example, receive stars after reading a book, they'll begin to compete with each other as if playing a game. And when children, or indeed adults, feel as if they're playing a game, their motivations greatly improve for many reasons. So for example, they feel a sense of progress, and this sense of progress tends to foster a feeling of commitment to some cause or endeavour, such as reading books. In addition, they feel a sense of ownership over the tokens, and this sense of ownership increases the perceived value or importance of the tokens. And furthermore, they feel a sense of fun, and this feeling of fun has been shown to enhance persistence and motivation. Yet token economies also generate some complications. In particular, this approach is hard to organise and demands effort to maintain. The tokens can be hard to arrange or quite expensive, and the rewards that individuals earn after they exchange their tokens, called the backup reinforcers, can be expensive too. In addition, token economies don't motivate everyone. That is, the individuals often need to accumulate many tokens before these tokens can be exchanged to receive the meaningful reward or backup reinforcer. Therefore, after initiating a desirable behaviour, the individuals might not receive a meaningful reward for days, weeks, or even months. And people who are more concerned about their more immediate needs instead of their future goals might therefore not benefit from the token economy. This delay might feel too long to be motivating. Ironically, many of the participants of interventions, such as prisoners, are more concerned about their immediate needs. That is, people who are more concerned about their immediate needs are often especially impulsive, increasing the likelihood of many behavioural problems. And so therefore, the very people who often need assistance and would benefit from a token economy are actually the very people who don't respond as well, at least initially, to token economies. Nevertheless, in principle, token economies could offset this orientation towards immediate needs. That is, after individuals participate in token economies, they might become more attuned to how their behaviours now could affect their status or satisfaction in the future. They might therefore be more inclined to consider the future consequences of their immediate actions. So during the second phase, you need to define the desired or target behaviour as objectively as possible. Otherwise, you and the clients might disagree as to whether the behaviour was implemented. The clients might feel aggrieved if they're not rewarded when they, but not you, believe they've implemented the desired behaviour. Yet the precise definition of these target behaviours might need to be modified and improved over time. So to demonstrate, suppose you want to dispense a token whenever your client smiles to someone else. So initially the clients might smile, but not genuinely. For example, their eyes might not really crinkle. And so consequently, the other person can sense that the smile is probably not genuine. So instead, you might decide to dispense a token only when the clients smile genuinely, called a Duchenne smile. And that is, the clients receive a token only if their eyes, say, crinkle properly when they smile. Now, as an aside, these Duchenne smiles not only seem more natural to other people, but have also been shown to diminish stress. Now, during the third phase, you need to identify suitable tokens. And tokens can be poker chips, marbles, stamps on a card, check marks, and so forth. So how should you decide which tokens to utilise? Well, you should first consider the degree to which the tokens are, of course, practical. Can the practitioners readily carry the tokens? Can clients easily accrue and store the tokens? Are the tokens resistant to damage? Can the tokens be faked? And so forth. Furthermore, clients need to perceive that the tokens favourably. You might, for example, choose tokens that clients already associate with positive emotions, like poker chips for adults or stars for children. Or you might choose tokens that are unfamiliar, that is, objects the clients have never observed before. So what are the benefits of tokens that are unfamiliar to the clients? Well, the answer is that such tokens can be conditioned more rapidly, according to a notion called latent inhibition. If an unfamiliar object is exchanged for a meaningful reward, say 3 or 4 times, the client will associate the object with this reward. So the object is thus perceived favourably. But in contrast, if a familiar object is exchanged for a meaningful reward, say 3 or 4 times, the client might not learn to associate the object with this reward as rapidly. That is, these experiences may not be sufficient to override the entrenched attitudes the person has towards the familiar object. During the fourth phase, you need to choose the backup reinforcers, that is, the meaningful rewards the clients receive in exchange for the tokens. Now, the backup reinforcers could include food, toys, games, TV time, and other privileges. And these backup reinforcers need to be perceived as scarce, otherwise they're not valued or perceived as rewarding. But in addition, these backup reinforcers should not be too essential, because otherwise the clients might be too disadvantaged if they don't earn these rewards. Now, during the fifth phase, you need to clarify the schedule of reinforcement. Should you imply continuous reinforcement, in which the client receives a token in response to each desirable behaviour? Or should you apply intermittent reinforcement, in which the client doesn't receive a token in response to each desirable behaviour? And if you apply intermittent reinforcement, which schedule should you use? Should the client receive a token in response to, say, 3 desirable behaviours, called a fixed rate of 3? Or should you utilise maybe a variable rate and so forth? Well, in general, practitioners will often begin with a continuous reinforcement, because continuous reinforcement is more conspicuous and thus effective initially. But then the practitioner should introduce an intermittent reinforcement and gradually diminish the rate at which the behaviour is reinforced. And ideally, before the program ends, the client should seldom be reinforced. So as a consequence, the client will be able to maintain their behaviour in the future when they no longer receive tokens and reinforcement. And during the final phase, you need to establish a token exchange rate and exchange place. For example, how many tokens should the client need to earn before they receive the backup reinforcer, such as a bucket of chocolates? Should they need to accumulate 10 tokens, 20 tokens, or what before the backup reinforcer is delivered? Now, if only a few tokens need to be accrued before the backup reinforcer, such as a bucket of chocolates, is delivered, the clients might receive this backup reinforcer too often. And so they might be sort of inundated with chocolate or whatever the reward is, for example. And they might therefore not value this backup reinforcer as much. And the token economy will thus not be as effective. On the other hand, if too many tokens need to be accrued before the backup reinforcer is delivered, the tokens may not seem valuable or rewarding enough. And furthermore, the accumulation of too many tokens might be hard to manage and count in practice. Now, besides the rate of exchange, you also need to determine the place of exchange. Where are the tokens converted into the backup reinforcer? Do you need to organise some sort of store? Does someone have to operate this store? And during which hours should this store be available? The issue is that some clients might feel frustrated if they can't exchange their tokens at the moment they earn a sufficient number. In addition, this exchange should be visible. That is, the client should be able to watch how the delivery of tokens is converted to the backup reinforcer. Consequently, the association between the tokens and the reinforcers become more conspicuous to the client. The tokens will remind the client of the reinforcers. And if the clients are, say, young children or maybe intellectually disabled, this procedure is especially vital because otherwise the clients might not understand how the tokens are related to the backup reinforcers.